The 14 princes of Kakin stand at the center of Hunter x Hunter's succession war, but they have a small problem. Information about them is scattered across the entire arc, making it hard to keep track of everything we know, and this is only made worse by the sheer amount of information we are given in the arc. But today, we're fixing that as we explain all 14 of Kakin's princes. We're going to go in the order that princes are born, so first up is first Prince Benjamin. Benjamin was born to first Queen Anma, and he holds a position as a military deputy advisor, giving him special privileges that other princes don't have. This was abused by him early into the war to use his royal guards as informants and assassins on the other princes. While Benjamin is often described as being hot-headed, when he calms down, he can actually be very analytical, and it seems like he's a pretty emotional person in all directions, not just with anger. Benjamin was one of the only princes to enter the succession war with Nen, and he even has a Nen ability in Benjamin Baton, which allows him to use the abilities of his men that have fallen. At this point, he has 3 stars on his hand indicating 3 abilities. Air Blow, which presumably blows air but we've never actually seen it in action. Secret Window, which is a reconnaissance ability consisting of 3 owls. And Yu-Gi-Oh, which allows the user to turn an opponent's ability into a card for future use. One aspect of Benjamin we really don't know a lot about is his Nen Beast. But according to Balsamico, Benjamin's right-hand man, it is a beast worthy of being king. Funnily enough, we also don't know much about the Nen Beast of second Prince Camilla either. This is for a very different reason though. Unlike Benjamin, whose Nen Beast we just haven't seen in action yet, Camilla is actively suppressing hers, as she wants to rely mostly on her own Nen ability, Cat's Name, the cat who lived a million times. This ability only manifests once Camilla dies and uses the life force of the person that killed Camilla in order to bring her back to life. She has used this once so far on Momoze. In addition to this ability, Camilla also has a very important tool in the succession war in the Have-Nots. These are a group of people that are shunned by the Kakin government with no way to elevate themselves in society. They would have lived in squalor had Camilla not given them positions within their royal guards, allowing them to live lives equal to those of other military members, although they still have to live in a completely separate district. This opportunity made the Have-Nots grateful to Camilla and completely faithful to her. They've spent years developing and festering a Nen curse to place on the other princes that would require their sacrifice to activate. There's one Have-Not for every prince, so in theory they could guarantee Camilla victory. But the strength of the curse depends on the distance between the Have-Not and their respective prince, and even just a few meters could make the difference between success and failure, as well as the amount of time it takes for the curse to activate. So it's definitely not as guaranteed as it seems. Camilla is the daughter of second Queen Daozul. As a person, she is both entitled and determined, spoiled yet strong. I don't really like her much as a character if I'm being honest, but a lot of people find her hot. The third prince is Zhang Lei. Also, I'm sorry if I mispronounce any of these names, I'm doing my best. Zhang Lei's Nen Beast is probably one of the ones we know the most about. It's still pretty opaque, but basically each day a coin with a 1 on it will drop from the mouth of the beast, with their value being increased over time when held in the hands of one person. If the coin switches hands, the number resets. The appearance of the coin also changes depending on if it's in Zhang's possession or someone else's. Kurapika believes this means the effect changes depending on the owner. In chapter 404, he explains that the ability of the coins is to be used in Nen Awakening, but it's hard to tell if this is a straight out lie or a mix of truth and fiction. His deductions are likely correct. After holding onto the coin for long enough, the holder's aura nodes would likely open due to being exposed to a high amount of Nen. And while this is true based on what we know about Nen Awakenings, I can't help but feel that there might be more going on here. We've heard way too much about these coins for them to just have a purpose once the war is over, at least in my opinion. In addition to his Nen Beast, Zhang Lei also has important connections to the Mafia, as he is the benefactor of the ZU Mafia group. I'm not going to spend too much time on the Mafia groups in this video, but basically, the ZU control the 4th tier of the ship, and they make their money through human trafficking and the distribution of goods. They are the most financially strong of the Mafia families. The third prince is one of the more fascinating characters in the succession war to me. According to Benjamin and the other princes, he is greedy, which is corroborated by his guardian spirit beast. But Kurapika also mentions he's an expert in subtle diplomacy and strategy. He seems to always be cool, calm, and collected, but he also hasn't really been put under any pressure in the succession war thus far, so we'll see how that changes. For now though, let's move on to the 4th prince, aka Tserridnich. But before we get into him, please consider subscribing. We are so close to 100,000 subscribers. I'm so grateful for the growth that we've had over the past few months, but what's crazy is most of you probably aren't even subscribed. Over 90% of my watchers are unsubscribed, so if that's you, maybe consider changing that. If you like Hunter x Hunter content, there's going to be way more of this on the way, so be sure to subscribe to stay up to date. Plus, it really helps the channel out, and I would appreciate it a lot. Anyway, the 4th prince is one of the princes we know the most about. He is an extremely vain and truly gross human being, often taking pleasure in killing women and collecting human trophies such as the eyes of the Kurta. The fourth prince is the main reason we have a protagonist on the boat in the first place, that being Kurapika, whose reason for being interested in the fourth prince should be obvious. While the fourth prince had known Nen prior to the succession war, he started learning upon learning of its existence, and since then has shown explosive potential with the art, surpassing a ton of Nen users in a matter of weeks. His Nen ability is ephemeral 10 seconds. Upon closing his eyes and entering Zetsu, the ability starts its activation where the fourth prince sees 10 seconds into the future. These 10 seconds are instantaneous and do not take up any time in the real world. After these 10 seconds pass, time starts flowing in the real world as well, but 10 seconds behind the fourth prince's vision. Once the fourth prince ends the ability by opening his eyes or stopping Zetsu, the next stage of the ability will begin, where the following 10 seconds happen exactly as it did in his precognition for everyone except him. I think. Time travel abilities are confusing. In addition to this ability, the fourth prince also has two Nen beasts, one being the guardian spirit beast gifted to him for the succession war and the other materializing during training. This second one is likely tied to his Nen ability, but this hasn't been explicitly confirmed yet. We don't know too much about the fourth prince's Nen beast, aside from the fact that it can sense when people are lying to the prince, and when they do, it punishes them. The first defense is a cut on the cheek. The second defense seems to be a rash and also knocking them out, and the third makes the offender no longer human, which is terrifying, but we haven't seen what this actually means yet. The fourth prince is also the benefactor of the Hailey mafia family, but he's not currently on terms with them or Morena. In fact, he wants to get rid of the whole clan since she took over. This crime family makes its money by acting as a middleman between wealthy people and the black market, which is fitting considering what the fourth prince is into. There's also a decent chance that the fourth prince was connected to the killing of Sarasa and potentially also the Kurta massacre, but these have not been confirmed yet. But enough about this creepy weirdo. Let's move on to the fifth prince, Tubeppa. Tubeppa is a prince that has been characterized as being analytical and driven by data. She is very intelligent and mainly joined the succession war to stop the first three princes from winning, as she considers them to be filth. Kind of crazy she doesn't consider the fourth prince to be filth, but maybe that just speaks to her character. Tubeppa does not have a Nen ability, and we don't know much about her Nen beast either. It's stated that it can synthesize a number of drugs within itself, but it requires a partner or collaborator to process them. This beast has been stated to be extremely cautious, which might reflect Tubeppa's nature. Tubeppa is currently in a peace treaty with Kurapika and in general doesn't see the lower princes as threats in the succession war. Beyond that though, we don't know a ton about the fifth prince yet, not unlike the sixth prince, Tyson. Tyson is just obsessed with the power of love. Like, obsessed. She believes it has the power to fix everything, and in a way has developed a cult following because of this belief. Granted, this following is also partially because of her Nen beast, which is fittingly shaped like a heart. This beast expels eyewogs from its butthole, and the eyewogs then extract aura from anyone that reads Tyson's book. This gives them happiness in exchange for said aura, but the amount of happiness depends on how thoroughly they've read Tyson's book. So she's basically getting all of her followers addicted to dopamine. If one of her followers breaks the soul taboo in the book, they will receive a severe punishment. One of Kurapika's allies is in the sixth prince's guards, that being Izunavi, Kurapika's old mentor. He's also the only one not currently under the influence of the sixth prince's Nen beast. The sixth prince was born to fourth queen Katrono. Tyson is, without a doubt, one of the living princes we have seen the least of. So let's move on to another prince that has been flying under the radar, Luzurus. The seventh prince is another one that feels like he's mostly just kind of been there. He's in the background most of the time, but generally seems like a somewhat decent guy. It's hard to tell, but he seems pretty chill. His guardian spirit beast is also one of the beasts we know the least about, but it essentially creates a trap for its target, using whatever the target desires as bait. Luzurus is another prince with one of Kurapika's allies in the ranks, this one being Basho, and he's also the benefactor of the final mafia family in the Char-Er, who control all commodities on the fifth tier. He was born to the second queen Daozul, but beyond that, the only thing of note is that there is currently an assassination effort on Luzurus from Melody, Kacho, and Kaiser. Next is Sally. He's dead. He was the second prince to die after Momoze, which sucks because he was just about to give a super cool rap. Sally is, in general, an indulgent and spoiled brat. He is essentially a rich man baby with no idea of responsibility in any capacity at all, and his Nen beast aided in this. This coughing lookalike is not all too different from Tyson's Nen beast. Basically, those that breathe in its gas will see the prince as favorable, no matter how the prince behaves. The gas works over a 7-meter radius, and if someone breathes enough of it a mini beast will form over their head and start releasing smoke itself. This means it could have an exponential growth effect in theory, but obviously that did not happen. It's also worth mentioning that this gas does not seem to affect Nen users, or at least not affect them as fast, as Raihan was not affected by it at all. Sally was born to 5th Queen Swinko, and he was killed by Yushohi's ability How to Get Away with Murder. Quite a fitting name, all things considered. Next is one of the most complicated characters in the Succession War, 9th Prince Halkenburg. When I say complicated, I don't necessarily mean him as a character, more so his abilities and his plans. This makes sense for his personality. Halkenburg is a good-natured and incredibly intelligent person. He's against the monarchy and originally planned to withdraw from the battle for succession. He went to one of the top universities on the planet and seems to use his intelligence and knowledge to excel as a phenomenal strategist, creating strategies that have minimal risk and high reward. These strategies revolve around his Nen ability, the boy who shoots the arrow, Grimmel Le Dissonance. Never seen an ability with 2 colons like that before, gotta be honest. This ability relies on the effect of his Nen beast, which marks those who come in contact with him with a tiny feather. For those who get one and are not loyal to Halkenburg, the feather disappears in 10 minutes. But those that are contribute to the ability by creating an enormous pool of aura. This aura must be used for the boy who shoots the arrow to be activated. And I'm gonna warn you, this ability is a lot, so buckle up. Basically, this ability is a soul swap. When surrounded by his supporters that have been marked by his Nen beast, he can use their loyalty to use their aura. This gives him a huge amount of power, and as already stated, is one of the conditions for Halkenburg to use the boy who shoots the arrow. Once Halkenburg is ready, he forms the aura into a bow and arrow and fires an arrow of aura. This arrow is capable of piercing any defenses, including Nen abilities. Once it lands on the target, it puts the mind of one of Halkenburg's supporters, or Halkenburg himself, into the body of the target, and puts the mind of the target in the original body of the supporter. This also links the mind and body of the supporter and target. Once linked, only one mind may be awake at a time, and the other is forced to sleep. Priority is given to the supporter's mind in the target's body, but this can be changed if the target's body dies or if the supporter's mind falls asleep. This priority is rewarded to the supporters due to the condition that Halkenburg stakes his life on every shot. The way this is worded, it could be interpreted that everyone in Halkenburg's group stakes their life on the shot, which would be kind of crazy. If the target's body dies, the mind of the supporter vanishes as well. So Sumidori, the supporter in Shikaku's body, is gone. If the supporter's body dies, the target's mind returns to their original body and regains priority over the supporter in their brain, I think. This one I'm a little bit confused on because the illustration of the manga kind of makes it seem like Halkenburg is controlling and manipulating Balsamico's body here. But this explanation means he's just kind of vibing, waiting for Balsamico to go to sleep, which is very possible too. It's a lot of words to digest, but now that I've said it all, I don't think it's actually that complicated. Another interesting aspect of Halkenburg is that the queen he was born to is actually first Queen Unma, not the second queen, which, I mean, kind of makes sense. I mean, look at them, they look pretty similar. But enough of that nerd, let's move on to the BFFs, Kacho and Fugetsu. Starting with Kacho. She's also dead. When she was alive, Kacho was seen as a largely nasty girl. She was incredibly rude to those around her, which pushed a lot of people away. But in reality, this was just a front as she struggled to find a way to save Fugetsu. She really cares for the younger prince, so much so that her Nen beast is Without You, a conjured beast that takes form after either sister dies, taking the form of the fallen sister in order to protect the other until they die or the succession war is over. We see this manifest as Kacho after the failed escape attempt that ended her life. Kacho was born to 6th Queen Psycho and has one of Kurapika's allies in her ranks, that being Melody or Senritsu. The duo are currently heavily collaborating with the judicial branch. Fugetsu, on the other hand, is kind of struggling right now. As a person, Fugetsu seems a lot less cavalier and more timid than Kacho. At least she was prior to the escape attempt. Since the attempt, she seems a bit more unhinged and a bit more reckless due to the curse put on her. As far as we could tell, we don't know the exact origin of this curse. It could be someone trying to kill her in the succession war, it could be something she got during her time exploring the lower tiers with her ability, or it could be an after effect of her escape attempt. The curses do kind of resemble all of those hands, at least to me. Regardless, she's under the protection of a charm made by Basho, so hopefully she gets better soon. As for her guardian spirit beast, it's actually pretty straightforward. It essentially gives her a teleportation ability known as Magic Worm. It manifests as a small door, and by crawling through it, she ends up in another location. If she does not leave the tunnel, she can go back through it to her starting destination. But if she does leave the tunnel, a return door must be used, and it can only be opened by Kacho. It'll be interesting to see if this aspect of the ability leads to Fugetsu learning the truth about Kacho. Just like Kacho, Fugetsu was born to 6th Queen Psycho. Next is the first prince to die, 12th Prince Momoze. Because she died so early, we don't know a ton about Momoze outside of her Nen Beast. She seemed nice and also strong-willed, but that didn't stop her from being killed, mostly because Savanti moved all of her guards to Marayam, but that's besides the point. Her Nen Beast is pretty simple. It asks someone if they're available. If the target says they're not available, a mini version of the beast will annoy them until they say yes, they're available. This activates the ability, allowing the beast to take over the host and do whatever it likes. We see it take its victim immediately on a killing spree, killing most of Woble's guards. In case it wasn't obvious, Momoze was born to 7th Queen Savanti. Next is 13th Prince Marayam, who also plays a pretty minor role. He's young and therefore doesn't have any notable abilities or strategies besides his Nen Beast, which is like a dragon. The specific abilities of this dragon are still obscure to us, but we know it can change the room Marayam and the beast are in to essentially become a one-way room, meaning people cannot enter the room, they're only allowed to leave. When people try to enter the room, they will enter a copy of it with nothing inside of it except for the Nen Beast. This copy can be freely entered and exited by anyone that wants to do so. Marayam is also the child of 7th Queen Savanti and has 2 of Kurapika's allies on his detail, those being Bisky and now Hanzo after Momoze's death. And finally, we come to 14th Prince Woble, who we also don't know much about, because they're a baby. That's right, no Nen Beast, no Nen abilities, no personality, just goo goo gaga and be cute occasionally. And honestly, it seems to be working for her so far. Granted, that's mostly because of the people supporting her, such as Kurapika and her mom, 8th Queen Oito. Despite being put in the most disadvantageous position of the entire succession war, this group has wormed their way into the center of the whole thing. This is mostly because of the information that Kurapika has about Nen and his willingness to give it out, simultaneously taking away the advantages of the higher princes and giving the rest of the princes a slightly better odds. On top of this, Kurapika has also negotiated an alliance with 3rd Prince Zhang Lei and a peace treaty with 5th Prince Tubeppa. But this isn't a video about Kurapika, it's about the princes, and on Woble's end, I don't think there's much else to say. So thank you for watching as always. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, please be sure to subscribe, and if you haven't already, maybe check out my second channel. It's going to be uploading a ton of new content, and I think you'll at least like some of it.